I think a lot of these things kind of sneak under the radar. And so I think that's been her approach to this race. Like she has refused to debate me. As you know, she didn't even respond to the Coast News Q&A. I think she was the only candidate in that round of interviews that did not respond. And so she's taking the approach of flying under the radar. And so that's one of the reasons I jumped at the chance to talk to you today, because I think people need to be aware when they've got someone up in Sacramento that's supposed to be representing them, yet they refuse to be transparent, they refuse to be accessible, and they are pushing bills that I think most people wouldn't agree with.
Sort of a priorities misplacement, you think, like with the policies that she's like pushing for with these bills and sort of the stance that she's taken in this campaign, you feel like her priorities are sort of out of line with the average voter. Is that? I
think so, yeah. But the people I know, particularly because she's from Encinitas, the people that I've talked to in Encinitas have said that she's just focused on the wrong things. And, I think that she's, as I mentioned, I've never met her. I would love to debate her.
Sure.
But, from what I can see about, from how she's running her campaign, she is not being transparent. And so I think that's problem number one. And problem number two, as you mentioned, is some of the priorities that she's shown in her votes are not consistent with what I know about the people of San Diego County.
Sure. I want to be careful how I word this because I'm supposed to, be journalistic here, but there is a lot of feedback I've been getting from residents, particularly in Encinitas, who the mayor here, Kathleen Blakespeare, who's running for state senate, as we just talked about. And then you have Tasha Boerner-Horvath with District 77. And both of them, in some way or another, have sort of declined debate challenges from their opponents. In Blakespeare's case, she's declined to debate Gunderson. And in Boerner-Horvath's case, it seems as though she's sort of unresponsive. So I'm curious, do you sort of feel as though this sort of ties back to that issue of, as you talked about, one party rule with sort of Democratic incumbents not being as transparent, as accountable, because they sort of have this grip on power, and that kind of creates this dynamic of where you sort of lose that dialogue, you sort of lose that diversity of conversation. And I'm just curious to hear if you think this is not just sort of an isolated case of you and Tasha, but more this is like reflective of that larger pattern of one party rule.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a strategic approach from Tasha and Blakespeare to say, you know what, we're the incumbents. We've got the money, and we don't need to debate these guys. Because when they come out and debate me, first of all, I'm going to expose, all the things that we just talked about where they're not representing their constituents well, but they're also giving me more attention than they want me to have. They just want me to go away. So for them,
which you have no intention of doing.
No, exactly. And I know Matt Gunderson doesn't either. I don't think it's an isolated incident. And I think if they were representing their constituents well, then they might be a lot more eager to get out there and toot their own horn. But both of them have taken the approach of kind of flying under the radar.